What is up, everybody? This is your boy Dedrian Cologne, and this is my review for the March 6th episode of AEW Dynamite. Could call it the rebranding, whatever. This was a fantastic show. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification so that way you're notified when the City of Wrestling drops its latest content. Follow me, Dedrian underscore 180 on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Fanbase, Blue Sky, and various other social media platforms. So tonight's AEW Dynamite, it was being hyped as the uh, new stage design, new logo, pretty much new everything. But man, this exceeded my expectations. They unveiled the logo and the show graphics and the match graphics and everything. So it's like, okay, you got an idea, and then it's like, okay, let's see how the stage is. Then they slowly revealed the stage design. It's like, okay, this is pretty cool. Okay, let's get into this. But man, that intro, wow. The new intro for AEW Dynamite. That is the intro that should have existed when it first started. Granted, the first theme, it was cool, it was great. When it first started, it's like, all right, man, it's different. But after 4 years, it just felt like, and if you guys remember some of my reviews going back to AEW last year and the year before, I always said like, man, they need to change up their intro because it's like the show and the intro, it's like two separate shows. It's like it's an intro for another show, and the show is more grittier, edgier, feisty, just all those elements. And they hit a home run with this. They just tweeted out, downloaded on iTunes. It's called Pop by Mikey Ruckus. Shout out to Mikey Ruckus. That man is amazing, man. That guy is gifted. Man, I loved it. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, wow. The graphic design, the video, like, go watch it. It's on AEW. Um, was it TNT Drama, their other account? Check it out. It's on there. I know it's on their Twitter account. I don't know if they put it on their Facebook account. It's probably on there, but man, watch that intro. It is an amazing intro for this show. When the show started, there's just a vibe about this show now that's really takes AEW to another level, and at the same time, it gives this unique feel where it feels like a what Tony Khan calls a challenger brand. What I usually call it a complementary alternative to the other companies. This is a nice. This is great. This is great for them going forward. This is great for them establishing the stories and just the matches that they're having. Like, this is just, I love it. I love it. I can't wait for next week, Big Business, how that's going to look. Um, Man, it just looks really great. The barricade with the graphics, it complements it. They have the black ring posts, black turnbuckles, but with the white ropes around. It's like, ooh, that's pretty cool. Just everything just complemented each other. I know the second redesign that they did last year at the beginning of 2023 was like, oh, okay, this is cool, but it just, it gave it too many similarities to Raw and SmackDown. And if you're going to be a challenger brand, you don't want to have those comparisons to the other company, which you're trying to distinguish that you're not like the other company, but yet your design looks like a combination of Raw and SmackDown together. But this gives it a whole different vibe. It completely separates it from WWE. Um, it just gives this unique selling point of this is what AEW is, and this is cool. And it complements the vibe that Rampage and Collision has been having as far as just solid matches and everything. It's like um, if you want to call it kind of like a script, you know, part one, part two, part three, and then boom. But man, this intro, the song, the design, the stage set, everything is just perfect, man. This is really good. Looking forward to seeing the other wrestlers come on and how it'll be presented, but it has injected on TV a new enthusiasm, and just visually, it's just more um, for me as someone who likes AEW, enjoys it and everything. It just gives me more of a ooh, I really want to see this. This looks really good. And then as I was watching, I was just going through my head, and I'm just like, man, I wonder what people who normally don't watch this are gonna say. Like, ooh, wow, this is wow, this is wow, what's this? And that's the thing that it really started clicking with me as far as what they were, um, the visual impact that it was having on me. Like, ooh, man, this is really cool. Like, okay, this is cool. Of course, the lighting in the crowd was a little bit darker and everything. Um, hopefully that changes as time goes on. But other than that, man, this was a really good um, introduction to what Tony Khan tweeted, I believe, was it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that, hey, there's going to be a new set, new logo for Dynamite. Check it out. And I love the match graphics and everything. Like, it's just, I love the vibe. I love it. It is a cool vibe. Um, it manages to be cool yet aggressive and intense. It just, for me, that's how I interpret it. But let me know what you guys think as far as the new logo, intro, and everything. Comment below. I'd love to hear what you guys, your feedback on the new logo for intro, or the new logo and intro for AEW Dynamite. Moving on, man, there's two things that's coming out of this show. First thing I'm going to touch on is this right here. Um, you had the Young Bucks come out, and they were going to say they were going to have a huge announcement. Eddie Kingston comes out. First off, they were just complaining that Darby and Sting cheated, which I thought was hilarious. Like, they didn't cheat, they beat you square and square. But I'm like, okay, I'm really digging the Young Bucks leaning into pretty much everything that people have said about them in the last 2 years. Oh, they're horrible EVPs. They shouldn't have EVP titles. Um, they're using their privilege to do whatever they want and everything, which is all speculation and just rumors and everything. Me personally, I don't care. Um, I watch this show to be entertained. I don't watch this show to be like, ooh, they're doing sneaky. Like, no, that's just not me. But I like it what they're doing, because I see their end game as far as doing this. Like, okay, you think that we're doing this? Okay, we're gonna do this on screen, and it's getting heat, man. Like, whew, El Fuego heat. So they're saying they have a tough decision to make. They fine Hangman Page for putting his hands on two officials, and they have suspended him from the Elite without pay. I'm like, that's interesting. I personally thought that the Young Bucks and Hangman Page were going to somehow come together, because, of course, Hangman Page is showing very heelish tactics in his feud with Samoa Joe and Swerve Strickland, more so Swerve Strickland, and keep preventing him from being AEW World Champion. Then the second part, which totally caught me off guard. Kenny Omega, you haven't made any of your dates for no reason, which is like, they announced that he was sick and he's out with sickness and diverticulitis. Like, what? And I wasn't, of course, people are like, that's stupid. Like, oh, like I'm like, okay, I see where this is going. They are leaning into this. They mentioned that, Kenny, you're fired from the Elite. Hey, you could light up the group chatter. I don't know if I'm going to answer it, but just the indirects and just the dismissiveness and the arrogance and just the obnoxiousness, if there's such a word, just how obnoxious they are. That it's just like, ooh, man, they're really leaning into this. After they say that, music hits, Eddie Kingston heads to the ring. He's like, oh, yeah, I got my Timberlands on, and he flicks them off, and he throws money at them about the fine and everything. He's like, oh, fine me. He starts hitting, I believe it was Matt Jackson hits him with a low blow. They're about to do the EVP trigger when Coin flips. Kazuchika Okada comes out. Yes, Kazuchika Okada comes out. Um, that crowd went crazy. They went like just crazy. It's like, okay, this is getting good. And he comes out in a suit right away. When he came out in a suit, like, ooh, he's gonna turn on Eddie Kingston. He's gonna turn on Eddie Kingston. Because normally, if you've watched Okada when he's come to AEW, whether for Forbidden Door, he always had regular street clothes. He didn't have street clothes. He had a suit and tie, and it's like, oh, I see where this is going. As soon as he gets in the ring, he's looking at Eddie. He's looking at the Young Bucks. Eddie Kingston's about to charge. He holds, hits the Rainmaker clothesline. Bucks attack him. Boom, boom, boom. Kazuchika Okada is in the Elite. He is the newest member to the Elite. The Young Bucks announce it. He's the newest member to the Elite. So this is really interesting that this is taking place. The fact that they're suspending Hangman Page without pay from the Elite, and then they fired Kenny Omega from the Elite and replaced him with his rival Kazuchika Okada. So for me, this makes me believe that the long game for this is Kazuchika Okada and Kenny Omega at All In Wembley Stadium. That's going to be crazy. I think they're shooting with the roster that they have. I believe they're shooting for matching the attendance that they had last year and maybe even surpassing it, because right now their roster stacked. Next week, big business, Mercedes Moné and everything. Again, the year's not over. Could we see more free agents come to AEW around June? We'll see. Maybe, maybe not. But that's how I see it. I do see that this is leading to a Omega Okada match at Wembley Stadium in front of 80,000 people. I can't wait. I hope Kenny's getting healthy and everything, and I hope that he's, diverticulitis is nothing to joke with. I've had a dad deal with it and everything. Thankfully, for him, he has the antibiotics and everything to clear that up and everything, and hopefully he gets healthy. But I do see that that's the long run. Maybe All In Wembley Stadium in London, Okada Ospreay. There's a lot of New Japan matchups there, but Okada versus Kenny Omega at Wembley Stadium. So I do see that that's where that going. With Eddie Kingston right now, at Dynasty, Jesus, man, we're Okada versus Eddie Kingston? Whew. Or are we looking at a trios match? Okada and the Young Bucks versus Kingston, Hangman Page, and maybe Omega. I don't know how it's going to work out, but I do see Eddie Kingston and Okada at Dynasty. Man, that's insane. I did not have that on my bingo card. I did not have Okada joining the Young Bucks. Did not have that on my bingo card. But then again, it does kind of make sense because I don't want to say there was teases directly from the Young Bucks and Okada, yet at the same time, there was a lot of reports that were coming out that, Okada's good friends with the Young Bucks. So it's just like, when everything happened, it's like, okay, this makes sense. Okay, I see where this is going. Comment below where you think this Okada joining the Elite with the Young Bucks, where do you think it's headed? Comment below. I'm really interested to see where you think this is going. This is fun. Moving on, we had Killswitch face Daddy Magic. After the match, Danny Garcia comes in to aid Daddy Magic, and Christian Cage, the patriarchy, they're leaving and everything. Adam Copeland just hits Killswitch. He throws him off the stage. He puts Nick Wayne in a chokehold. Then he chases Christian Cage throughout the crowd, through the back, all the way to the point where Christian Cage literally steals a car. And that's something about AEW villains. I'm noticing this. Comment below if you're noticing this too. A lot of AEW villains slash heels, they're committing a lot of crimes on TV. Home invasion, theft, um, assault. Like, they're committing a lot of stuff that you're like, you should be going to jail in real life. Like, this is pretty crazy. But nonetheless, this was shot really well. I give them a lot of kudos and points for that. Like, they were really this was shot really well. And Christian Cage steals the SUV, drives off. Um, Adam Copeland, he looks in the camera and he's like, March 20th on Dynamite, this is where it's going to end for the TNT title, an I Quit match, and that will be in Toronto. So that should be a very fun match. Just by the Okada match, this was a solid episode of Dynamite. This was when Adam Copeland announced this. I'm just like thinking, I'm like, okay, everything that's transpiring on this show, and then I'm thinking, okay, next week you got Big Business, then you're gonna have this in March 20th. I'm just like, yo, they're stacking a deck on a lot of solid matches going forward. And one thing that by them announcing this, and this is something that they have been doing in the last month that I do give them credit for, and they're improving on, is they're announcing matches, for dates ahead. Normally they wouldn't do that. When they first started, they didn't do that as much, but now they're really doing that, and it's really, hopefully it helps them as far as ticket sales and everything, because hey, we want all these companies, I want all these companies thriving and everything, and it just helps the business. So they're really improving on that side. Man, I'm looking forward to that I Quit match. That's going to be a crazy match between Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. Will there be shenanigans? Will there be interference? Will this match have some sort of interference where Daniel Garcia accidentally costs Adam Copeland the match? And this leads to Adam Copeland slowly turning heel, which later on in the year would turn into a heel turn for Adam Copeland. Does make me think, even though it was announced that Matt Hardy's contract is coming up, I think this month or week or whatever it was, will he, re-sign, and like, would we get a Edge Christian versus the Hardys at All In? Like, would that be something that would take place? That would be cool if it did happen. But I digress. But man, March 20th, Dynamite in Toronto for the TNT title. Adam Copeland versus Christian Cage for an I Quit match. That should be a really fun match. Christian Cage has been hot as a heel. Adam Copeland, he's had some solid matches. I really like the intensity, the grit, the aggression that Adam Copeland showed as he chased Christian Cage in a promo he gave. It really came out for me. It was just like, okay, he means business. Like, this was really cool. This is dope. And one of the funny parts about that shot was that Christian Cage was holding the TNT title out the window as he drove off. It was just like, these guys are funny, man. This is freaking hilarious. Moving on, man, this was a very solid women's match. Tonight's episode of Dynamite, they have done a really good job of really integrating and what's the word I'm looking for? Really, if you could say entwining or what have you, like, they're really connecting a lot of the women's story, like entwining. There you go. Or interweaving, whatever. You guys get what I'm saying. A lot of the women's matches and storylines. You had a promo by Julia Hart referring, talking about, her and Sky Blue's loss on Collision to Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander, that whole thing. This match, Chris Statlander and Riho, this was a solid match. And then there's a subtle storyline that's going along this. And it's Stokely Hathaway throwing objects in the ring for Willow and Chris Statlander to use to defeat their opponents. Willow didn't do it in her match. Chris Statlander didn't do it in this match with Riho. Man, this women's match was amazing. what I liked about this match is that there wasn't an over, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of times in Rio matches, they overdo it with it, where it's just like, okay, mm, this was a very fluid match with Rio and Chris Statlander. It really, um, man, this was a great match. I loved it. This was great. But man, that Stokely Hathaway throwing something in um the ring, which it cost Rio or Chris Statlander the match, with Rio uh rolling her up and pinning her. So that's already twice already where Stokely Hathaway has thrown something in the ring and Chris Statlander lost and Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale lost. So it's just, or actually no, they won. But there's that subtle storyline. Willow gets interviewed later on, and she's just like, "We're not gonna have that." She's looking to fight Julia, but I believe she. Ooh, let me check my notes. I believe, yeah, next week is going to be Willow and Rio on Dynamite. That should be fun. And here's the other thing that adds to this. Um, so you have Willow, Chris Statlander, Stokely, that whole thing about them, Stokely using the chain for them to cheat, but they're not doing it. Then you have Julia Hart and Sky Blue. You know, they have this thing with this feud with Chris Statlander and Willow. And then with Willow facing Rio, it's almost like a subtle nod, wink, wink that Mercedes Moné's coming because of her matches in Stardom. So it's like, okay, big business. You got Rio, who's, man, she's a fun wrestler of mine to watch because it's it's just fun to watch because it's entertaining. I know some people are like, oh, it's not believable. Like what? It's like, I don't care about that. I just want to be entertained, and Rio is a very entertaining women's wrestler, and it's the actually, if you want to say it, she's like the Spike Dudley of the women's division, where it's just like, okay, this is cool, fun. It's like, all right, I like it. But man, next week is going to be really interesting with the women's division. Toni Storm, you know, she gave an interview um, talking about what season it is, and it's like, oh, Renee's like, oh, it's almost spring, and she's like, oh, well, you only look smart, blah blah blah. She's like, next week, you know, I'm gonna give the Tony Awards, and Tony with an I, so I don't get sued, and just hyping up her whole thing. So you have that going on after she beat Deonna Purrazzo. You just have a lot of things that are cooking with the women's division. You got Serena Deeb calling her shot on um, Collision. You got Julia Hart issuing an open challenge, which is going to be, I believe it's Robin Renegade on Collision. So it's just a lot of cool things with this women's division. A complete 180 to where it was last year. Ironically, last year in January, a lot of people were anticipating Mercedes going to AEW after the promo by Britt Baker with her and Jamie Hayter feuding with um, Toni Storm and Hikaru Shida. Was like, oh, is she going to be the mystery partner? That never materialized or anything like that. So it's ironic that a year later, all this is materializing. It's just like, okay, this is pretty cool. So I'm excited to see where the women's division is headed. Um, I'm entertained by the stories in the women's division. You have the Saraya Ruby Soho, Saraya's brother, and Kuhan Luke or Kuhan and Angela Parker. So you have that storyline going. Just some really cool stuff, man. This is really cool stuff, and it's fun that it's being integrated into the main storylines, and it does now. The women's division feels like it's a part of AEW. Um, Comment below what you guys think of how the AEW women's division is being presented on television. But that's how I feel now. It's like, okay, now it feels like it's really a part of AEW. As before, it just felt like, okay, there's AEW, and then there's the women's division, and it's like, okay, well, but now it's like, okay, it's AEW and the women's division are together. It's like, okay, now things are. This is fun. Um, Lastly, the way the show ended, man, oh man, Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher. I can't believe we got that on free TV. That was a fantastic match. If you haven't seen it, go out of your way, watch it. If you DVR'd it and you haven't watched Dynamite before, as you're watching this review, go watch it. I'm probably gonna watch it again because that was a freaking fantastic main event. Man, I hope they scale down the physicality, Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher, because man, they have to have bones of rubber band because my goodness, the stuff that were going on. Ospreay wins the match like that. Man, that was a very physical match. But as him and Kyle Fletcher are, they're, if you want to call it coming, I don't want to say coming down, but just, the match finished and they're just taking a breather and everything and they're getting up. Music hits. It's Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson gets in the ring and we have this nice stare down between Bryan Danielson and Will Ospreay. And that's how the show ends. I'm like, whoa, that is a cool way to end this first episode with the new set, the new intro, the new design, logo, all that. I'm like, this is a really cool way to end this show. It's a cliffhanger without saying it's a cliffhanger. If you guys understand what I'm saying, right away people are like, oh, so are we going to get Bryan Danielson and Will Ospreay? And they kind of teased it because if you go back and watch the shot of Bryan Danielson and Will Ospreay in the middle, they make sure they get AEW Dynasty, the date, the time, everything, and it's like, oh, are we getting Danielson versus Ospreay at AEW Dynasty? Oh my. Oh my goodness. That is going to be beautiful. Beautiful. My goodness, that's going to be beautiful. I love that way to end the show. It's going to get people talking. I'm sure a lot of people are talking now on Twitter and social media and YouTube and TikTok and all that. I know people are going to talk. I love it. I love it. My only concern, please scale down the physicality, because, man, that stuff, oh my goodness. Some of those moves, I'm just like, I hope he doesn't have a concussion. I hope he doesn't have a stinger. I hope, like, his kidneys aren't bruised or anything like that. I'm like, oh my goodness, man. That was a great way to end this show. A few other things that happened on this show. The Darby Allin Jay White segment. Darby mentioning like, hey, I'm going to be climbing Mount Everest March 27th. Thank you for everything. It's not a guarantee. Like, just like, it was kind of like when he said that, it was just like, I'm like, let me pray for this guy so he returns back safely and everything, because he's a daredevil. It's like, Lord, please protect this guy, because this guy has a lot of talent in this industry, and please, and everything. One of the lines I really liked about that interaction was, you came to AEW and did what? Play with cardboard cutouts? Like, what have you done? I'm like, ooh, that's a really good. AEW has been clicking on those little subtle nod wink winks, what a lot of people have been saying about certain wrestlers or situations. They like incorporate it. It's like, okay, we see that you're watching. Again, like I repeated, or what, like I said earlier, you had Sky Blue issuing a open challenge to anyone this Friday on Rampage. Robin Renegade, House of Black, they issue a challenge to Mark Briscoe. He had an interview with Renee Paquette right after. Jay Lethal comes in. So basically, we're going to get the House of Black and versus Jay Lethal, Mark Briscoe, and Jeff Jarrett. And then Atlanta Street Fight. That should be pretty fun on Collision. Let me see what else is there. The Stokely Willow interview. She mentioned that she has her sights set on the TBS Championship. The Renee Paquette, Kyle O'Reilly interview. He said, I'm grateful I thought I would never wrestle again. He's like, I know those guys. I respect those guys in the Undisputed Era, but I feel like I've scaled down so low that I have to do this on my own. It's like, that's an interesting thing he mentioned. What does it mean? Where's he gonna go? Um, Basically, he's gonna climb up the ladder. Right now, it makes me think of a certain storyline that happened in AEW where a group wanted someone, maybe it was the Blackpool Combat Club or something like that. Like, no, I got to do it on my own and build myself up. Just, I can't remember what the storyline is. Maybe you guys who watch AEW, you know what it is, but let me know in the comments. So that's going to be interesting. Um, Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends with Renee Paquette. Um, Chuck Taylor's like, hey, I'm not clear the rest, but maybe you guys can enter the tag tournament. Hook defeating Brian Cage while Cage drops back in a pile of thumbtacks and he still holds on the red rum. That's crazy. Another solid match. This show had a lot of solid matches that complemented each other, and this was a fun show. Samoa Joe and Swerve, that interaction. Swerve telling Adam Copeland when he came out. I love the manager thing. If you need a doctor, I have Britt's second number right here. It's like, oh, that whole thing. Like, this was from start to finish. This was a very fluid, fun, entertaining show that they just went to another level. AEW. For what they've done in the past and where this show started off and finished, like, this is another level. And this completely, I don't want to say completely, but it does separate a lot of things that a lot of people criticize AEW for. It doesn't nullify it overnight, but it does put AEW in that track. Like, okay, we know who we are. We know what we're going to do. We know the stories we're going to tell. This is the look that we have. This is who we are. And this is where we're going. And, hey, I like it. But, man, overall, this was a fun show. I love it. I'm looking forward to Collision. I'm looking forward to Rampage. I'm looking forward to Big Business and seeing that whole reaction with Mercedes Moné. Man, if you're a fan of AEW and you've kind of been like, man, where's the feeling? Of course, that's been mentioned since January. Like, man, it feels like it doesn't have the feeling. And Tony Khan has alluded to it on Twitter and a few other people in AEW, like restoring the feeling. MJF mentioned in his promo before World's End, restoring the feeling. And it does feel like AEW has restored the feeling and they've modified the feeling. And they've updated the feeling. So I like it. This is fun. Man, this is a fun episode. Let me know what you thought of the March 6th episode of AEW Dynamite with the new intro, the new design, the new graphics, everything. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. Man, I loved it. And actually, what's crazy, I've watched this episode twice already. Before I recorded this review, I've already watched this episode twice. That's how good it was. But man, that is my review for the March 6th episode of AEW Dynamite. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification so that you are notified when the City of Wrestling drops its latest content. Follow me, Dedrian_180 on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. I'm trying to think. Fanbase, Blue Sky. You can follow me on Facebook and everything. But man, with that, folks, until next time, enjoy wrestling. Never say never. It's 2024. Anything can happen in the world of professional wrestling. And trust me, we're only in March. We have quite a ways to go before 2025. All right. With that, folks, I'm out.